Welcome back to Under Oath. Today we have magician, writer, and Guinness Book World Record holder David Blaine. David, can you hear me?
Yeah, I love that introduction. Normally they say magician, mentalist, this, that, but yours was good.
I do stand-up comedy, so I got to be clean with it. These intros.
Nice to meet you, Jeff.
It's good to meet you. I've watched you for so many years, and there's such a difference between people. It's a magician, illusionist, physical acts, everything. But I think you hit on something when you first came out that just blew people's mind. And it was just, this isn't like magic. This is real.
Yeah, but it started with cards and simple magic, and what was real was not the magic, it was the reactions. But yeah, my whole search as a magician has always been things that were real and believable. So my three words that I always think about when I'm working on magic is the initials of the letters are MIB, and it's and then I use that as like, so the first thing is believable, which is one of the most important things to me. But and then I'm going backwards, is interesting, right? So it's like, and then the first one is it has to also be magical. So I'd say the order is more important backwards. So it's MIB, but it's believable, interesting, and magical. And that's kind of what I try to figure out when I'm putting together something, is how close to believable is it? That's number one, because as soon as a person's logical and they're thinking about, oh, how did he do that? It's already gone. So it's like every time you look at an airplane floating over your head, that's magic, but we take it for granted because we know, oh, the engines and this and the jet propulsion. So we know what causes this to happen. But if you really just stared up and thought about thousands of tons, floating over your head, that's as magical as it gets. So yeah, I'm obsessed with that approach. But the beginning was card tricks, magic. The believability, I think, was people's reactions. And then I started to do some of the first stunt was Buried Alive, inspired by the one Harry Houdini wanted to do that he never had the chance to do. So it began with trying to do things that were real, not magical, but pushing to the edge, and things that most people would assume was an illusion or a trick, but trying to find the closest to truthful approach to it. So I think that's always what drove me to Harry Houdini, and that's what drove me to all the characters that Ricky Jay wrote about that he was intrigued by in his book, Learned Pigs and Fireproof Women, which is people that could convert their bodies into a prop to create magic. So there was a human aquarium, Mac Norton, who could put koi fish, goldfish, frogs, everything in his stomach, support an aquarium inside them, bring them up into an empty glass and give it to the kids in the audience. And then there was another guy named the human fire hydrant who could drink a gallon of water, drink kerosene, use the kerosene to blow fireballs, and then extinguish the fire with the gallon of water that was in his stomach. And then there's Stevie Starr, who's still alive, who's amazing, that is the regurgitator that uses his stomach to unlock locks when he swallows a key in a lock. And then there's also people like Tom Mullica, who passed away, who was one of my favorite magicians, but he would eat a pack of cigarettes lit. He'd swallow it, then bring it back up, smoke them fully lit, swallow them again, eat 20 more cigarettes, light them, swallow them, and then his mouth was empty and he was fine. So I was always most obsessed with the magicians that were doing things that were on the edge of real, and often, by the way, those things were real, and often those things were, like in Harry Houdini's case, that's what caused Harry Houdini's premature death, I think, because he was holding his breath in a water tank on stage, and he shouldn't have. He was in lots of pain, and he collapsed afterwards and was rushed to a hospital where he died a few days later.
That has a lot to do with your 6-part documentary that just came out called David Blaine, Do Not Attempt. And I think of that as an attorney. How many times do you do something and you're going, please, God, don't have some kid think he can do this?
No, and that's why I called the show Do Not Attempt. The show is called Do Not Attempt specifically because I had a nightmare at 3 a.m. and I was like, whoa, what if somebody tries to, I just done the bottle, the knife, and the note. I was like, what if somebody tries to do these things? So I felt like I was lucky that some of the things, the result of them, we show with the knife how close it is to the nervous system and the dangers of what can really happen from it. So but yes, that was the reason the show is called Do Not Attempt, was specifically for that.
Now, what I love about studying all the things you've done, there's such a huge line between, hey, listen, I got this trick, I got this illusion, or I'm physically going to do something that people can't do. I mean, you hold the Guinness Book record. I think it's 17 minutes and 4 seconds for holding your breath.
Yeah, but it's been pushed. Now it's 24 minutes and 3 seconds. And I don't think it's safe to push that far for me anyway. So it may remain that for, but yeah. At one point, live on the Oprah Winfrey Show, I went up to 17 minutes and 4 seconds. And before that, the previous record was a hypothetical 13. As soon as I announced it, Tom Zedis went on Regis and Kelly and pushed the record to, I think, 16 and a half minutes or so, 16:32. And then I went on Oprah and pushed it to 17:04. But in training, by the way, I did with pulmonary experts and telemetry attached to me. I was in the water and I went to 20 minutes and 2 seconds, but my heart rate dropped to 8 beats per minute. So they pulled me out of the water, freaking out, thinking I was going to go into cardiac arrest. But I was like, why'd you do that? But that was one that I started training for since I was 5 years old, holding my breath underwater. And that was kind of, I think that's what led me into this search for using the mind to override the body. In other words, using your willpower to achieve things that shouldn't be possible. And that's ultimately what led to this search around the world for these fascinating people that have worked for thousands of hours diligently on one skill set. Most of those skill sets are skill sets that everybody around them would say, don't do this. It's too dangerous. What are you doing? You're crazy. But they were so passionate about it that they drove themselves to learn it beyond almost anybody in the world. And to me, those things are as close to real magic as it gets. And it was a highlight and a dream to be able to actually feature the people that work on these skills that are amazing that as a kid, I only read about. So traveling the world to find them was incredible.
What I love about what you do is a lot of times as a writer and a creator and a joke writer and everything you can imagine, I think about when you come up with this idea, do you ever ask yourself, are they actually going to let me do this?
I mean, you're in Orlando, right?
Yeah.
So Disney is the one that backed this whole series, right? It's on Nat Geo, and they've all been amazing. But just getting standards and practices to agree to these things, that's the real magic of this entire series. Like, oh, he's going to sit in a room with 6 black mambas. Okay, sure. He's going to kiss a king cobra. And these are all wild animals that are, being brought, they like Neville recovers them because they're in South Africa in the KwaZulu-Natal, and they basically, when people have snake encounters like black mambas, he recovers them, puts them safely to make sure they're okay. He rehabs them and then puts them back out in the wild. But while doing so, he sits in this little enclosure with 6 black mambas, and he's just meditating with them. And he's proving that if you have, because there's snake encounters very often in South Africa, and if you encounter a mamba and you try to attack it, somebody's going to get hurt or probably die. So he teaches you by demonstrating in this place that people can watch him in this enclosure, and he sits with 6 black mambas, sipping his coffee and just meditating with them. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, because I understood that the immediate risk is death. And he was missing a leg from a snake-related injury, and he had gone into a coma 2 times from snake-related injuries. So anyway, but I trusted everything. I watched him. I observed carefully, and then I sat with him for a bit, and just did exactly what he said. So I stayed still. When the mamba comes towards you, just remain calm. Do not react. If you want to get out, you can't get out. You have to wait till they let you out, but then everything is fine. So that was pretty incredible to experience, I have to say.
Now, this is the weird thing, because I think about this all the time. When I was younger, I was in the military. I jumped out of airplanes. About 2 years ago, a buddy of mine goes, hey, let's jump out of an airplane. I had cut a deal with God that I wasn't going to do it again. But for my friend, I said, okay, I'll do it. And I jump out of this airplane. I hit the ground. I'm going, I never do it. This is the dumbest thing I ever did. Now, I can imagine how many stunts you've done where you go afterwards, you go, wow, that was dumb. I really should not have done this.
You jumped solo?
Yeah. It'd been a while. So nuts.
So for me, if I'm not excited by the idea, I won't do it. So for me, the idea of flying through the sky is like one of the greatest. I did a stunt called Ascension, where I rode a bunch of balloons up to 25,000 feet. on air they said 24.9, but it was 25 because I was looking at my altimeter. But anyway, so I rode the boat to 25,000. Then I dropped, and flying from that height, just like soaring through the air, was the highlight. Yeah, it's unlike anything because it's a heightened sense of awareness. So what those things give me, I think, on some level, is it takes away all the normal things that you concern yourself with, or the things that I think about, like, oh, where am I going to do this? What's this? I have to return this, I have to pay this, I have to do this. But when I'm doing those things, it's like everything is in slow motion and everything is super clear. And that's part of the drive, I think. I think it is something that gives me that feeling and that experience that I'll never have. And so I wouldn't do it if I was like, oh, this is stupid. I wouldn't do it. If I don't like the idea of it, I won't do it. But if I'm intrigued by the action, or if I watch it and love it, then I can't get it out of my head. So it's almost like we're the opposite approach.
Now, I
I
can't
think.
imagine somebody like you. You've done a lot, you've seen a lot. It's really tough to surprise me or to amaze me. And the last time I was amazed when I was watching Elon bring that rocket back and it landed. And that was ridiculous for me to see. What does it take? Last thing you think about that? Wow, that was amazing.
I see. We're the opposite. I'm amazed by, like, if you watch the series, you'll see me jumping around and screaming and reacting. I do that all the time. My friends will show me one move with the card trick, and I become the audience on my shows. I'm the one that's like running away, screaming, yelling. Which is why the series is awkward for me in many ways, because I don't show that part. But I'm the opposite. I'm like amazed by like the so many, and then my daughter does anything, and I'm blown away. Like I've never seen anything equal to it in my life, but well deserved. She works very hard on her rhythmic gymnastics skill, but anything that I see that, to me, I understand and appreciate the amount of invisible work that they put into it, meaning they put thousands of hours, countless thousands of hours, to make something seem, to me, like magic, whether they're magicians or whether they're jumping from cliffs or whether they're dancing in the air. That's the stuff that I get. I think that excite me, that keep me wanting to always learn, that keep me inspired. So yeah, that type of thing.
I have a daughter too, and I realize I can't give her much advice because I'm her father and I could try to, but she goes, I'm my dad. So I get the benefit of asking like the best people in every field. And she wants to be an actress. You wanted to
How
be a
old is
magician.
she?
She's 19.
Okay, I have
And,
a great answer.
and well, I'm asking for it because I'm truly a selfish human being. So what advice would you give to somebody who's going after something?
That's not selfish. That's great. So I think a really good a good approach, and I remember I was I was lucky to hear this advice from Sean Penn, and I registered it at a young age, and I thought it was really good. And somebody came up to him and asked him the exact same question. She said, "Oh, my son wants to be an actor, but it's so hard. What advice do you give him?" And his answer was incredible. Here's what he said. He said, most people have a plan B, and they have a backup plan. But if you take the minority of people, they have a single focus. They're willing to go through countless amounts of failures, rejections. They're going to keep getting better. They're going to keep trying. And if their motivating force, if their passion and their drive has a meaning behind it, like they want to become an actor because they want to communicate something with the world, or if they have something that is so important to them that nothing can stop them, then the advantage they have over everybody else is they'll keep working, they'll keep putting the time in, they'll keep watching all the best films with the best performances, writing notes, thinking about things that can inspire them, reading books that inspire them. So the more you put into it, the more I think the higher your rate of success is, because you're basically putting in the time that nobody else would. So I think if you're driven and willing to put the passion, the time, the dedication, and you look at that Churchill quote where he says, success is the ability to go from one failure to the next failure with enthusiasm. If you keep that in your back burner, that type of approach, I believe gives you a big edge. And for me, when I was doing my first TV show, Street Magic, my motivating cause, my passions through everybody saying, oh, this is magic like this doesn't work on TV. It was the day of the big illusions and stuff like that. All the shows were called World's Best Magic Magicians or Best Illusions. But I wanted to show just the simple card tricks and people reacting. But I wrote on a napkin, I scribbled this message. And the message was, I'm going to show that all people from all different walks of life, whether you're rich, poor, young, old, Christian, Jewish, any ethnicity, wherever you're from, I'm going to show the best side of all people by showing their reactions. And because of that meaning behind everything, I was able to keep driving forward when everybody was saying, no, it's impossible. So I think that, anyway, that's sorry for the long answer, but that's my answer to the question.
I can't thank you enough, David, and I appreciate having you, and good luck with the documentary. Be well.